Okay, we're going to be using Desmos for this standard. I can use technology to determine a least squares regression line and determine residuals. Teacher had 10 students keep track of their study time for the semester final. The table at right lists their study time in hours and their percentage scores on the test. Graph your data in Desmos and find the least squares regression line. What is it? All right, so here is our data. So we're going to go over to Desmos, and you would click on the plus and add a table. Right, and once you do that, you would type in your X and your Y's. I've already done that here. I have our X and Y's. Yours will not show this E1 yet. Okay, that's going to appear later for you. So I now have my scattered data. Okay, you're going to want to change the scale so that you can see it. When you look at yours, the scale is going to be off. So the way I changed my scales, I looked at the X values, and they went from about 0.5 up to, it looks like 5.8 to 6. So my X values went from 0 to 6. And my Y's, if they're test scores, go from 0 to 100. So over in our little wrench, my X values, I always like to see the axis. So I usually do like -5. And I wanted to go to maybe 10. And my Y-axis, maybe -10 up to a score of 100, and that would allow you to see your data. Okay. You could also label your axes, but we don't need to do that for this. So to get a least squares regression line, we're going to type in Y1, because the data I'm looking at up here is X1, Y1. So I have Y1, the little squiggle for an equal sign, MX1 plus B, and that's going to give us our linear least squares regression line. So down here, well, for you guys, it's going to have E1, and it's going to have a plot button. Click plot, and it'll give you the values. You're going to need those later. Okay, so click the plot button that I don't currently have. So this M gives me my slope. So this line here, that's the least squares regression line, is Y equals 7.67x plus 48.48. Okay, so there is my equation. All right, I'll go ahead and type that down here. Y equals 7.67x plus 48.48. Excuse me, 49, because we want to round that up. That 6 should round up to a 9. All right, and there's my green line. All right. Let's go back to see what we have. So that's the least squares regression line. According to your model, how many hours would a student need to study in order to earn a score of 95 on the test? So we want to know how many hours they would need to study to have their Y value be a 95. So what we can do is just add the line where Y equals 95. That's a score of a 95. So how many hours of studying is that? Well, it's 6.06. So all of our data given to us was rounded to the 10th. So I'm going to round this to 6.1. 6.1 hours to get a 95 on that test. Okay. C, Julie studied for 5.2 hours and scored a 95. What is the residual for Julie's data point? Okay. So I need to take a look at 5.2 hours. What should have Julie scored according to our model? So if Julie studied for 5.2 hours, Julie should have gotten an 88. Okay, she should have gotten an 88. But what did Julie actually score? She scored a 95, so she's above the predicted model. So what we would do here is we would take 95 and subtract what the model had, which was an 88. So she has a residual of 7. Okay, that means Julie scored 7 points higher than what was expected. So she's got a positive residual of 7. Okay. Look back at that, right? That's what the model said she would have scored, an 88, but she actually scored that 95. Okay. If a student studied for 1.6 hours, what score would be predicted by the model? So when x is 1.6, what does the model say? So now we're going to ask when x is 1.6. Ooh, not very good on that test. We would expect that person to score a 61 on the test. Okay, so we'll take a look at how I wrote those out on the actual study guide. Okay, so that first one there, we've got 7.67x plus 48.49. I extend my decimals out to the hundredths just to be precise. B, I've got 6 hours. C, we have 7. The formula to find a residual is the actual value minus the expected value. So if your actual value is above the prediction, it's going to be positive. If it's below the prediction, the expected value, you're going to have a negative residual. And D there, if you study for 1.6 hours, you would expect a score of 61 points.